My name is Betty. I work as a maid in the best hotel in the town. My job can be called boring because my path crosses every day with the people you see on TV. And sometimes we have more serious events involving those people. I will tell you a case in point. It went like this. That night, I spent in the club with my girlfriends. I didn't sleep all night, and in the morning, I went to work. Naturally, at work, I really wanted to sleep, but my boss, Evelyn, assigned me to clean up room 356. And in this room, these days lived Brown Smith, the most famous jeweler of our city. The room was empty, so Smith had obviously gone somewhere else. And in the bed was a big book with colorful pictures. It was about wildlife. I leafed through the book and was amused. There was not much text, but the pictures were huge, as if they were for little children. Does a serious man like Brown Smith read such simple books? But the pictures in the book was fascinating. I gazed into them and did not notice how I fell asleep in a huge soft bed. When I woke up, this was a gentle hand on my shoulder, and a handsome middle-aged man standing at the head of the bed. I felt ashamed in front of Smith. At that moment, I was afraid that he might tell my boss Evelyn, and that she would punish me. But Smith surprised me with this unexpected phrase. "Are you feeling ill? Do you need help?" he asked. "Yes, I need help. I could drink a bucket of strong coffee or sleep in a warm bed for another hour. I have a terrible headache," I said. Smith smiled and said, "I don't recommend a bucket of strong coffee. That dosage could make you feel worse tomorrow. Getting an hour's sleep is a good idea. You sleep, I will go to the garden and get some fresh air," he said and headed for the exit. But I still didn't believe him. Our hotel usually has the most capricious guests. "No, don't do this. I know you're already filmed on your phone sleeping in your bed, and now you want to show it to my boss. Please, don't do that. I'm gonna clean up right now and leave," I said, jumping out of bed. Smith walked back in without stopping smiling. He pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and held it out to me. "You can check my phone if you want. There is no recording on it. You're agitated. You really should rest now," he said. I was embarrassed now, but my eyes were sleeping from wanting to sleep. As soon as Smith was out of the door, I fell into deep sleep again. The next moment, I woke up to Evelyn's piercing scream. "You shameless witch! Why did I hire you to be my maid? Aren't you ashamed to fall into bed during work hours, and in the room of such distinguished guests as Brown Smith? Get up and write your registration," Evelyn shouted. I was horrified to discover that it had been a full 3 hours since I had fallen asleep. That was the end of my job. I couldn't find anything to say to my boss, but that's when Smith came into the room. "You will forgive this oversight, please. To make it up to you, we are offering you a free dinner at our restaurant, and this girl will be fired now, so she won't be so insolent in the future," said Evelyn to him. But Smith again came up with an unexpected solution. "Fire her. She's coming with me. And yes, if it's all right, have the dinner at the restaurant served for two," he said. I couldn't believe what was happening, but Smith turned to me and asked, "I hope you will keep me company. If so, I would really appreciate it." I nodded my head silently. That same day, I was fired from my job, took off my maid's uniform, put my alleged dress, and went to Smith's room to apologize. But he didn't seem to have forgotten his plans. "Finally, I'm starving," the chief called. "Dinner's ready. Let's go to the restaurant," he said and gave me his hand. We were served dinner. The staff at the restaurant looked at me with a puzzled expression. It is not customary here to overstep personal boundaries with guests, but I did so that day in an incomprehensible way. Smith tried to distract me from my worries. He was talking about himself. I am a serious man, but I'm a young boy in heart, curious to know everything. I'm a wildlife enthusiast. Surely you've seen the book with the colorful illustrations. I bought it yesterday. I lived through it all night. It was very interesting. What are you into? He asked me. I'm a student. I'm studying to be an archaeologist. I'm not into anything because I'm always sleepy, I answered honestly. Smith smiled the whole time. At dinner, we drank fine French wine. Do you want me to tell you how when I was a student I went on safari with my friends, got lost in a jungle and spent the whole night there? Smith asked. After the delicious dinner, with delicious wine, I wanted to sleep, but I didn't want to look like a rude brat. So I told Smith that I will be very interested in hearing his safari story. My eyes were filled with vivid pictures of the jungle, wild animals running around, Smith's friends and himself shouting noisily. This continued until I felt the surface of a plate of vegetables on my face. I opened my eyes abruptly, and Smith was already laughing out loud. You're sleepy again. How tired you are. Poor thing. Let's get out of here, he said. Where to? To your room? I won't be understood by my colleagues, I said with confusion. You will live now in my country house. There is a staff that will protect your sleep. You will rest properly, and then you will attend school normally. You don't have to work, he said. That was the end of Smith's stay at our hotel. He took me to his huge country house and let me stay there. I didn't mind. Never working and living the good life was my dream, and that day it came true. Betty, I would like you to meet this and my housekeeper, Sarah. If you have any requests, you can tell her. She will do anything, said Smith. An older woman with large round eyes looked at me reproachfully. She had a piercing stare that made me break out in a cold swear. As I later found out, Sarah didn't like me from the start either. Smith had gone somewhere that day. Sarah was always doing things around the house. She lived in a separate little house in a corner of the big garden. I thought Sarah would obey me and follow my commands, but she turned out to be a woman of character. Another adventurous woman. Sarah, what makes you think I have a personal relationship with Smith? He and I just met by chance, and he decided to help me. That's all. I'm not going to be his friend, I replied. Sarah shook her head and laughed snidely. She didn't say another word about Smith. After a while, I remembered her words. Smith had really started romantically courting me, and I liked it a lot. But I realized that it wouldn't be easy for us to be together. So I decided to talk to him about it. Smith, honey, if your wife Amanda finds out we are in love, you're dead. Why would you risk your position like that? I asked. Betty, honey, thank you for asking that. I think it's time I knew the whole truth, he said and took my hand. We were sitting in the garden of his country house. He explained his vision to me. Amanda and I haven't loved each other for a long time. She has another man. She loves him. I fought for a long time for our relationship, but I failed. But I have a right to be happy too, don't I? I have a heart and it's alive. I have sincere feelings. Why don't listen to them and try to be together with you? He said, looking faithfully into my eyes. If this is all true, Then I'm ready to fight for our happiness with you. You need to let Amanda go, I said. It will be hard, because in a divorce, she will let me go without a penny to my name. But I'm not going to give her everything I work for. Her father is wealthy. Her fortune is enough for herself. I will have to fight for my real estate and my bank accounts, said Smith. Yes, you're right. I will support you. Divorce your wife and try to keep your assets. We will fight together, I promised. A few days later, he filed for divorce. Amanda was furious. She sent her lawyers to our house. They told Smith the following: Our client claims all of your assets. You can sign them over voluntarily. Then there won't be a lengthy legal battle. Otherwise, the process will be long and you will still lose in the end, they said. And then I intervened in conversation. He won't give anything back. We'll take as long as it takes. I'm ready to stand up for the man I love. Tell Amanda she's not being fair, I said. Smith supported my position. As you can see, this girl and I fell in love and decided to spend the rest of our lives together. I've found the love of my life. As far as my estate is concerned, let everything be according to the law. I wouldn't want Betty to have to marry a poor guy, he said, and we kissed each other. Once again, as my lover and I discussed our plans for the future and agreed to be together, I went into the kitchen to get some juice. Outside the living room door, I saw Sarah, who looked at me with a startled expression. Sarah, what are you doing here? Are you eavesdropping in our conversation? I asked her bluntly. I was right. You're just another heartless who fell into the rich man's property. You're gonna get hurt for this. I will personally help Amanda defeat her myself, she hissed. I was horrified and immediately called Smith to fire the nosy housekeeper. And then Sarah spoke in a different way. Smith, how could you think it all of me? Have you forgotten that I took part in your upbringing when you were only 3 years old? Have I ever resisted you, Will? I love Betty as much as I love you. I'm sure you will make a wonderful family and be happy at least. You and she make a very handsome couple, she said. She's lying. She's serving Amanda. She just told me so herself. I have to fire her, I demanded. To which my favorite man was surprised and said, Betty, do you know why Sarah works in this house and not in my apartment where my whole family lives? Because Amanda doesn't tolerate her. So I'm more than confident in Sarah. She doesn't want to hurt you and me. And you should go to favorite nightclubs and get more rest. Otherwise, you get confused about reality, he said and kissed me gently on the forehead. But the unpleasant residue remained in my soul. I love Smith very much and believe that he will be able to cope with his difficult divorce. The legal battle lasted over 1 year. During this time, I continued to live in his country house, attended university periodically, and didn't work anywhere. There were no needs for it. One day, I remember Smith's words that every person should have a hobby. I came up with a hobby. It was going to the hotel and restaurant where I used to work. Before going to see my old colleagues, I will go to an expensive clothing boutique and buy branded clothes, bags, glasses, and so on. And then I will walk there, things in a hotel where I used to have to mop the floors. This really annoyed my boss, Evelyn. She even tried to ban me from the hotel. So I told Smith everything. He made one call to the hotel manager and on my next visit, Evelyn herself brought me the menu in the restaurant. Smith ended up getting a successful divorce. Amanda couldn't claim any of his assets. He and I finally signed and intended to start a new life. We got married at the same restaurant where he told me about the safari. Our married life was eventful until Smith left one day for another safari. 4 days later, I was informed that an accident had happened and my Smith had died. I was inconsolable with grief, but I pulled myself together and began to prepare for the funeral. Smith's body was not shown to us. It was brought in a closed coffin. I gathered everyone who knew Smith, including Amanda and her relatives, for the funeral ceremony. But at the most important moment, the unexpected happened. Sarah, whom I had previously fired as a housekeeper, appeared among our guests. She went straight to Amanda and whispered something in her ear, after which Amanda took off her mourning veil, put it in her purse, and left the ceremony. I never realized what it was. We consigned Smith's body to the earth with all honors, though I really regretted not seeing him one last time. After the funeral, I was in no hurry to move anywhere, because I knew that I was not only heirless of my rich husband, and no one will be able to claim his property. I met with his lawyers, and they confirmed it to me. I was worried that Amanda might show up at any moment and claim some of the property, but I didn't see her since the day she left the funeral, changing her grief of loss to a smile on her face. After a few more days, strangers came to my house with papers. "Betsy Brown, why aren't you paying the late Smith bills?" one of them asked. I didn't understand what they were talking about, and the man explained it to me. "Brown Smith, just before his death, took a loan from our bank in the amount of $18 million. According to the contract, if the borrower dies, his debts are to be paid by his heir. He knew that you are his sole heir," said the bank representative. I talked to other lawyers, and they confirmed that in this situation I have no choice but to pay this money. Otherwise, I will go to jail. Over the next 3 months, I had to deal with the sale of Smith property, and I took the proceeds to the bank. His cars, apartments, and houses were gone, but there were still a few tens of thousands of dollars outstanding. Then I had to sell my own apartment, which I inherited from my grandmother. That money covered the last of Smith's debt, but I was left on the street, homeless. I started sleeping at airports and train stations. During the day, I cried bitterly and swore at Evelyn for not taking me back to work at the hotel. On one such day, I learned the terrible news. Smith was not dead, but faked his death, and the owner of the bank, to whom I had given all my property, including my apartment, was Amanda. The newspaper said that the spouses have long invented such a scheme to divorce gullible women to take their property. Then I finally realized how cleverly I had been tricked and started crying again. That moment, I felt someone's hand on my shoulder again. I opened my eyes and saw Brown Smith standing in front of me. "Why haven't you cleaned my room yet? Instead of working, you're sleeping on your desk," he stated and looked at me angrily. I remembered everything that had happened between us and slammed him, even though it was all my dream.